So, you found KEO. It looks interesting. You decide to play it, and then you get snowballed. Not exactly the most fun experience. Well, here is the guide video that I put together to hopefully help some people understand the game a little bit better. If you like the video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and leave a comment if you feel like sharing a little bit of your knowledge along the way. The thing you need to understand about the game is that your utility is literally everything, with different specializations such as tactical, striker, bruiser, technician, specialist, operator, juggernaut, armor, as well as Panther. In order to understand what ability or kit that your utility will get, you have to understand which one of these classes your vehicle is having. Some of them are mostly based around defense, as well as others are based around full-on damage. Some of them are considered a blast cannon, and others are basically considered the immovable object that can be damaged or even destroyed no matter how much you put at them. So understanding which vehicle you're going to go for is basically the importance of how you're going to survive your game. Anyone who goes for the Viper or Stinger likes to go in for glass cannon playstyle, where you deal most of the damage enough to destroy a vehicle. However, if they get too close to the action, they can end up getting destroyed themselves, as you don't have much armor to be able to defend themselves, leaving even the most heaviest of tanks being able to destroy you. However, something like the Marauder or the Divisor, which ends up having a lot of armor, doesn't end up doing that much damage to be considered important. However, the next tip that I'll give you can mean the difference between winning a gunfight as well as losing one. Vehicles matter. How you want to play the game is always determined on what vehicle you're using. Some people are very good at dealing the most damage, as well as having maneuverability of playing years and years of Need for Speed. However, other people may not be very familiar with car racing games and may end up becoming the sitting duck that sits there, trying their best to figure out the grasp of the game and end up getting melted by someone else. Understanding what playstyle you want to go for will be the determining factor of winning and losing. My starting vehicle was the Panther, and even though it was a basic balance between utility as well as defense, its damage potential really felt a lot to be desired. However, it wasn't after a couple of minutes playing it that I realized its true potential as well as its moments to shine. The vehicle itself feels like a jack of all trades, where it tries to be the master of none but have enough being able to do something in a gunfight. And at first it can seem very confusing getting into a gunfight, using all your abilities and realizing that it all came to naught. The next tip is the other thing that basically makes your vehicle shine no matter which circumstance that you're in. How you engage a gunfight can be the determining factor between winning a gunfight and losing it. Once you know your playstyle of whether you want to be the tank, the healer, or maybe the warrior who just goes in berserk mode and destroys everything, how you engage a gunfight can lead to results of having the most damage done, and then watching your opponent fly away while not really having accomplished anything, or going in and winning a gunfight because your opponent doesn't have much to get out on. Each different vehicle has its own different speciality, and understanding that speciality will determine how you do it. Some, for example the Stinger, has incredible burst potential, able to go into a gunfight, deal amounts of damage, and leave you with very little health left. However, the Panther, which has the ability to mitigate damage by 40%, can immediately enter into a gunfight with a Stinger, mitigate as much damage as possible, while also dishing out enough damage to destroy it back in return, and leave the gunfight victorious. Therefore, understanding what vehicle you're going against, as well as what to counter that vehicle with, can lead to the victory or end of your own gunfight. With the Panther, my main strategy was simply to mitigate as much damage as I could from my opponent while dishing damage at the same time, and then once their armor is gone, I would just unload my full arsenal against them. The other strat that I discovered works also means going in and dishing some of the damage that you could do and then having time to escape. Recovering your health as well as your armor and then coming back into the gunfight can be seen as more important than simply standing there shooting your opponent until they're dead and then leaving once they're gone. You have to remember that this is a 3v3 game, and if your opponent's allies end up coming to back him up and you're left in a situation where you have half health, you could end up getting burst to death without the ability to do any counterplay afterwards. The other thing you have to remember is that each of your utilities have a cooldown, and even though it may not be seen at first, understanding how much time it takes before your ability comes back up can determine how you start your abilities and when to use them. Others tend to go for a more passive approach of bursting your opponent down from a distance, and the Stinger and the Viper being the very perfect ones to do that. However, something like the Marauder, which has to get up close and personal to deal most of its damage, opts for the approach of ramming into the vehicles as well as leaving them in a position where if they do recover, they don't recover in the right position to get out. Standing in front of your vehicle while they recover also leaves them in a position of having to reverse to get out of the gunfight, which can lead you in a more favorable position to give in chase as well as ram them again and keep them in a position where they can't really escape you. One of the strategies that I noticed most of the people playing was the strategy of bursting down opponents with sheer gunfight power. Considering this is indeed a 3v3 game, I would see most of the Marauders going into the gunfight, taking most of the damage as well as dealing some, only for the Stinger or the Viper to end up finishing the opponent off, which brings us to the third thing that can also lead to you winning the game in the end. Teamwork makes the dream work. Even though your vehicle has a certain capability or performance, at the end of the day it all comes down to your team. Which one is the engager, which one will be the burster, and which one will be the finisher, can lead to the victory of your team or not. If you're playing with randoms, seeing people just go in, dish a bunch of damage and then leave only to see their opponent run back and get all the health bars and then come back again only leads to a very unproductive match. However, if you are playing a tanky class, going in and absorbing most of the damage so that your teammates can end up dishing the final blow to finish your opponent can be the leading factor of success. However, going into and starting a gunfight as a Stinger, even though you are the weakest class in terms of armor, can only lead to you being destroyed in the end, and then your other teammates may not be able to recover afterwards. So knowing which vehicle you're playing with, its utilities, as well as what it brings to the table can lead to the victory of your team. However, in some situations, you'll notice that when you play with randoms, they want to do their own thing and not really work with a team. So if you don't have any friends that you're playing with, understanding your vehicle as well as what it's capable of, its abilities, utilities can lead to a more favorable match. I can't really offer much advice on the different types of vehicles, abilities, as I was only able to test two different ones between the Stinger and the Panther. With that being said, this is the tutorial guide for KEO. If you enjoyed the game, then I hope to see some of your comments on what you think of it so far, as well as how the tutorial helped you out. But do remember that this is been made during the beta phase, and a lot of these abilities and kits are subject to change when the main game launches. But for now, I hope the beta advice tutorial helps you to at least enjoy the game to some extent. Otherwise, this is Annie, and I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. If you like it, then leave a like and consider subscribing for more content from different games from my channel.